Let's set the scene, not just for another fight night, but for a generational collision. It's a scorching summer evening in Riyadh. The lights are blinding, the air is thick with anticipation, and the cameras are locked in. Two heavyweights, cut from completely different timelines, are about to share the same stage. In one corner, Dillian Whyte. You know the name. You've seen the scars. He's danced with Joshua, brawled with Chisora, stood toe-to-toe with Fury, and taken the kind of punches that retire most men. Every time the world tried to close the book on him, he tore out the ending and rewrote it. And the other? Moses Itauma. Just 20 years old, southpaw, blazing fast, untouched, untested, but already whispered about like prophecy. They're calling him the future of the division, before he's even been pushed into deep waters. So here's the question that makes this more than just a fight. What happens when a veteran who refuses to fade meets a phenom who won't wait his turn? We're about to find out. Alright, let's talk about how we got here. Dillian Whyte has been a mainstay in heavyweight boxing for nearly a decade. The guy's fought in every kind of brawl you can name. He's gone toe-to-toe with some of the sport's biggest and meanest names. Whether it's push-punch wars with Chisora, a stadium banger with Joshua, or that huge title shot against Tyson Fury, Whyte's been in the fire more times than most fighters dream of. And every step of the way, it's been hard-earned. No handouts, no shortcuts, just grit, resilience, and that signature left hook waiting to change everything. But since 2022, it hasn't been smooth. After the Fury loss at Wembley, Whyte's career entered this weird spot controversy. Rumored fights that never happened, whispers of retirement. So what did he do? Went on the road, got a couple of solid wins, started rebuilding. Now at 37 years old, he's back under the lights in a major co-main event. He says he's not done. He says the world's forgot what he can do. Riyadh is his chance to remind us. But standing across from him is the rawest talent the UK has produced in years, Moses Itauma. Born in Slovakia, raised in Kent, groomed in the gym since he was old enough to throw a jab. He's 12-0 with 10 knockouts, and not one of those wins has shown us even close to his ceiling. He's became a sparring partner for champions when most kids were trying to pass exams. And from all reports, he's been holding his own since then. Now at just 20, he's fighting a veteran who has sparked and has been sparked by world champions. Fast hands, slick angles, killer instinct. All signs say this kid's legit, but signs only mean something until somebody punches you in the throat. So what do we really know about Dillian Whyte, beyond those numbers in the win-loss column? This guy isn't just rough around the edges, he's built from them. If you look closely, you'll see the scars of wars, with some of the toughest names in modern heavyweight boxing carved right into the way he fights. The Body Snatcher nickname isn't for show. Seriously, ask anyone who's dared to trade hooks to the ribs with him. Whyte's bodywork is like getting hit with a sledgehammer, and he's worn that reputation as armor since his early years. You can't fake that kind of grit. You have to live through it. What stands out about Whyte, though, isn't just his willingness to sling leather with anyone. It's that chip on his shoulder, heavy but always fueling him. He fights like someone who knows every round could be his last big chance, with nothing to lose and an iron resolve to never bow out quietly. That's why you'll see him scowling through the ring walks and jawing at his opponents at pressers. He's always got something to prove, and he won't let us forget it. His highlight reel? Yeah, there are some thunderous knockouts, perfect left hooks, jaw-tilting uppercuts, sneaky right hands out of nowhere. But the real magic comes in the rebounds. After every setback, every brutal finish or tough decision, most fighters would have slipped into the background. Whyte? He just got meaner. When Tyson Fury dropped him at Wembley in front of a packed stadium and the world thought we'd seen the last of him, he went back home, rebuilt, and started grinding in places far from the headlines. Small shows in Ireland, humble gyms, silent sweats with only his tightest circle watching. If you study those return fights, you'll notice a shift. A man who's maybe a tick slower with his feet, maybe not quite as twitchy in his prime, but twice as clever and 3 times as stubborn. Whyte knows he can't outspeed the new generation, so he wins on timing, slipping inside, picking his moments, and dragging younger fighters deep into the uncomfortable waters. Late rounds where his experience matters most, and panic sets in on those who've never been there. His jab is heavy, not flashy, but it sets everything up. His sense of when to pounce, when to tie up, when to get rough. That's ring generalship that only years at the top can buy. But beneath all that bravado, there's urgency. This fight means more than a payday or another main event slot. It's his way of showing the world and himself that he's still the gate every rising star has to get through. He knows boxing is a young man's sport, and that whispers always get louder after a loss or two. Whyte wants to prove he's not just a name on someone else's record. He's a measuring stick. If you can't beat Whyte, you're not ready for the real sharks at heavyweight. And if you're a hot prospect rolling in cocky, convinced you're special, he's got a history of making you rethink everything by the end of round 4. For Whyte, Moses Itauma is a test not just of skills, but of legacy. Is the next generation really ready? Or does experience, toughness, and that old school hunger still matter? Because if Itauma shows up thinking this is an easy step up, Whyte's planning on dragging him through exactly the kind of hell that creates or breaks a future champion. And in a fight where youth and flash get all the attention, never forget, pain, patience, and pride might still have the final word. Whyte's betting his whole career on it. Now let's talk about Moses, because this kid isn't just the next name on a prospect list. He's a full-blown headline waiting to happen. At just 20 years old, Moses Itauma is already knocking on the edge of something historic. In a division where most champions don't hit their prime until their late 20s or early 30s, Moses is racing through the ranks like someone left the gate wide open. The goal? Simple, but insane. Beat Mike Tyson's record and become the youngest heavyweight world champion in history. And based on the way he's fighting, it's not just a dream, it actually feels like a possibility. He's 12-0 with 10 knockouts. But behind those numbers is a style that begs for attention. It's the way that he moves that really turns heads. Itauma doesn't plod like a typical heavyweight. He glides, shifts, circles. His footwork is rare in this weight class like a cruiserweight, but grounded enough to deliver real power. He's a southpaw, which already gives conventional fighters trouble. And his jab is sharp, fast, and controlling. Combine that with the fact that he's a switch hitter when needed, and you've got someone who fights like he's 3 steps ahead. You could see it all click in his breakout performance against Mike Balagun. That was supposed to be his first real test, the kind of matchup where young fighters are forced to dig. Instead, Itauma treated it like a sparring session and got Balagun out in 2. There were no nerves, no wasted motion. Every punch had purpose. And just like that, the WBO shot him up to the top of their rankings. The boxing world, not just in the UK, stood up and took notice. Now he's getting mentioned alongside world champions, and promoters are saying things like generational talent. His name is already on the short list for world title consideration. For some fighters, that kind of rapid rise triggers caution. For Moses, it looks like motivation. He's not just buying into his own hype, but he's also not shying away. He knows what's being said. He hears the word prodigy, and he welcomes it. Still, for all the praise, there's one looming question. Can he take a punch? That's what the old guard wants to know. That's what Dillian Whyte wants to test. Critics aren't sold because they haven't seen Itauma under fire yet. It's not his fault, he's just been too good. But until someone lands something that makes him flinch, buckle, or have to think mid-fight, they'll keep asking the same thing. What's his chin made of? This fight is his crucible. No more theory, no more prospect padding. If Itauma can outclass Whyte, or make it messy, that record could unravel just as fast as it was built. One thing certain, Moses Itauma isn't here to wait for the future. He's here to steal it. When you watch boxing, there's that saying, styles make fights. And this one can be a cleaner example. On one side, you've got Dillian Whyte, the classic old-school bruiser. On the other, Moses Itauma, the sleek, modern southpaw relying on speed, angles, and ring IQ. Whyte's style is built on pressure and punishment. He walks you down behind a high guard, absorbing shots with a chin that's taking big hits, but barely wavers. His signature weapon is that sharp, punishing left hook, the kind that can turn around, or even a fight in an instant. Whyte loves to work the body relentlessly, breaking down opponents round after round. And when he gets you in the clinch, he gets rough and physical. His approach is designed to make you uncomfortable and force mistakes. This is a fighter who thrives in the trenches. He wears down opponents with toughness and grit, turning fights ugly and grinding out victories through sheer will. In contrast, Moses Itauma brings what feels like a breath of fresh air. He's fluid on his feet, light, quick, and elusive for a heavyweight. Unlike the heavy-footed brawlers often found in this division, Itauma moves like a cruiserweight, constantly shifting angles, jabbing, countering, and firing mid-range combinations. His southpaw stance adds an extra layer of difficulty for any orthodox fighter, forcing awkward adjustments and openings. Itauma's approach relies heavily on speed, timing, and ring smarts. He wins by outthinking and outmaneuvering his opponents rather than overpowering them. So what happens when these two contrasting styles collide? The big question is whether Itauma can stay mobile and avoid getting caught up in Whyte's world. Can he keep dancing and scoring without letting Whyte smother him with pressure? because as the fight goes on, especially in the middle rounds, Whyte is expected to increase the heat, pressing forward harder, cutting off the ring, dragging the young challenger into a physical bruising fight where his experience and power can tell. On the flip side, will Whyte's aging legs and reflexes be quick enough to neutralize Itauma's movement early? Or will the rookie pile up points and confidence in the early rounds, forcing Whyte to take risky chances, searching desperately for the one big punch to turn the tide? This stylistic puzzle is what gives this bout its intrigue, its old-school toughness, test-and-mounting agility and science. If Itauma can keep Whyte off balance, this could become a showcase of speed and precision. But if Whyte locks him down, the fight could turn into a nasty slog that reveals whether the veteran's power will still rule the ring. In boxing, every round tells a story. This fight promises chapters full of movement, pressure, counter-strategy, and raw competitiveness where every moment could shift the momentum and the legacy of both fighters. But let's zoom out. The heavyweight division is in flux, still orbiting around names like Usyk, Joshua, and Fury, but clearly shifting toward a new generation. The old guard has the belts and the backstory, but the future is pressing in. Daniel Dubois, Jared Anderson, Arslanbek Makhmadov, and standing tall above them with momentum on his side is Moses Itauma. That's what makes this fight bigger than the resume or rankings. It's about positioning. The winner doesn't just get a boost, they get leverage. Title eliminators, main event billing, calls from the zone, invitations to Riyadh. Suddenly, you're not just knocking on the door, you're standing in the lobby. For Dillian Whyte, this could be a career resurrection. A win reboots the campaign, gives him new relevance in a division that's always hungry for redemption arcs. He becomes more than a gatekeeper. He becomes a problem again. For Moses Itauma, a win is validation, proof that hype wasn't premature, that he's not just a gifted prospect, but a legitimate threat to every belt in boxing. But if either man stumbles, the fall is steep. And in this sport, the rebuild is never private. It's long, painful, and played out under the brightest lights. Leading up to the fight, you can feel the tension, but it's not the usual trash talk circus. It's more sharp-edged respect. Whyte isn't screaming. He's calm, but direct. He says Itauma hasn't felt real pressure yet, and when he does, it'll change him. He's not here to play with kids. He's here to remind everyone that pressure busts pipes. Itauma's response? Cold and quiet. Classic calm before the storm energy. He said, "I respect Whyte, but respect doesn't win fights. If I weren't ready, I wouldn't be here." The fans are split right down the middle. Some think Whyte's got that one good night left in the tank, and vulture instincts built for exposing rookies. Others believe Itauma isn't hype, he's just ahead of schedule. So what's this fight really going to come down to? Forget the resumes, forget the rankings. On August 16th, when that first bell rings, everything gets stripped down to fundamentals: pressure, patience, pain tolerance, and who can stay one step ahead in real time when the fists start flying. And in this fight, game plans just aren't strategy, they're survival. For Dillian Whyte, the mission has never been more clear. He needs to get inside fast. His entire approach is built on pressure and physicality. He's not going to try and box pretty with Itauma. That's not who he is. He wants to break rhythm, slow the pace, and take Moses' wheels away. Start early with the jab to the chest, sneak in short left hooks, bury shots into the hips and ribs, and get that southpaw stance tied up in knots. Make the kid uncomfortable. Rough him up, whisper in his ear during clinches, lean on him, step on his feet if he has to. Whyte knows he doesn't have the legs to chase. He's got to cut off the ring before Moses can disappear. If he can trap him in a corner by round 4, turn it into a dogfight and get the young man hesitating just long enough to land something sharp, particularly that lethal left hook, it could be a long night for the prodigy, or a short one. Now let's flip the script. For Moses Itauma, the fight doesn't have to be heroic. It has to be smart. His plan is built on rhythm, spacing, and breaking Whyte's legs before Whyte ever gets into gear. He has to jab, slide, pivot, and stay disciplined. It's not about showing off. This isn't an Instagram reel. It's about making Whyte miss just enough to frustrate him, and then making him pay with counters that add up over rounds. Pick his spots. Hit, move, angles, volume. Control the pace without rushing. And most importantly, don't admire your work. Against someone like Whyte, pausing to admire a clean combo is how you get your light switched off. As the rounds go deeper, the tension grows. If Moses can stay on his toes, manage to pace and avoid heavy exchanges, we could be looking at a boxing clinic. Maybe even an eye-opening late round TKO, fueled not by one shot, but by steady accumulation, speed, and timing. But if the fight slows down, if Whyte starts dragging him into infighting and clinches in rounds 6, 7, and 8, then the ghosts of Whyte's wars become weapons. The old dog teaches the young pup a very real, very painful lesson. It's an edge versus will kind of fight. The kind where both men get what they want for a moment, but only one can keep it going. The formula sounds simple, but the reality? It's chess with fists, pain wrapped in strategy. The one who sticks to the plan and survives the adjustment walks out the winner. So, who has the edge? It might come down to this. Can Whyte land the one big shot before Itauma lands too many small ones? And if he can he survive the speed of tomorrow long enough to steal back a piece of yesterday? That's heavyweight boxing. One punch changes the question and the whole future. This isn't about belts, not yet. This is about respect, reputation, and what's next. If Dillian Whyte wins, the fight becomes the start of a final campaign, a late run that reminds the world that toughness doesn't age as fast as reflexes. It buys him time and relevance in a division that loves redemption stories. If Moses Itauma wins, everything changes. The narrative becomes real. The hype levels up. He becomes the youngest serious threat in boxing's most lucrative division. And suddenly, nobody's laughing at the Tyson comparisons anymore. The ring isn't big enough for both of them to walk out elevated. One career gets a lightning bolt. The other, maybe it palms, or a full stop. You feel that? That's the energy when generations collide and destinies get decided in real time. August 16th in Riyadh. This isn't just a fight. It's a test of everything we love about heavyweight drama. Will the old lion roar one more time? Or will the young wolf run wild? Here's your seat at ringside. Your voice matters. Who's got your pick? Whyte's war-hardened heart? Or Itauma's blazing promise? Hit the comments with your hottest takes. Share this battle with every fight fan you know. And seriously, if you love every nerve-jangling second of boxing's biggest moments, hit that subscribe, because the knockout nest will be roaring as loud as the arena when the bell sounds. The future starts now. The only question is, whose dream survives?